Hey, what's up, everybody? This is a once in a lifetime situation. I actually have been doing a lot of different things, and sometimes certain people I can't get them on the show at a certain time. But I was having a conversation with the CEO and founder of Foster Care Shines. That's right. You guys know there's a story that goes with that, right? But we're going to flip the script on this Veterans Day. I want to say shout out to all veterans, anybody that served in the military, actually served active duty, and all other duties that are involved from all five services, six in areas if you want to count them all. But I really want to say thank you for those who have been supporting me coming along. But I'm going to go on the other side today. I'm actually going to be interviewed because I'm going to bring somebody in, and she has the energy, she has the fire, and she is the CEO and founder of Foster Care Shines, and her name is Miss P. Irene Green. I'm gonna bring her on in here. Miss P. Irene, how you doing, girl? It's
I'm
good to see you.
awesome. I
This
am awesome. So glad to be on the show with you today.
Yes, yes, yes. The show usually is on Saturday from 7 to 8. Explain it to people. What the heck is Foster Care Shines? Why should it be important to people who are watching right now or watching on the replay? What's the deal? Talk to us and tell us what's going on, Miss P. Irene.
Well, again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity of coming on your show. It's amazing. I mean, you've got an amazing story. You're doing big things, and I could not be more proud of you and glad to say, he's doing his thing, right? And so I'm awesome. Everything is awesome. Yes, like you, I want to appreciate all the veterans and thank you for your service. I mean, hey, that's one of the reasons why we are a nation of liberty, a nation of democracy, right?
That
Well,
is
not only,
true.
yeah, yeah. Well, not only is today Veterans Day, but November is National Adoption Awareness Month. And
Mm,
so how amazing it is to celebrate National Adoption Awareness Month. And like you said, your show is normally on Saturdays, but hey, it's a special day today. So today
that's right.
you're going to be interviewed. You're going to be
Oh
interviewed. You're
no,
going to
should
be
I
on the
get
other
excited?
side.
I don't know what else to
Yes, you
do.
should be
Should
very
I go like,
excited.
oh my gosh, he's gonna ask me questions I don't know? No,
No, no, no. You're gonna ace it. This is a test
I'm
you
gonna ace
already know
this
that.
one. Okay, I
This is a
already
test
know
you
the
already know
answers
the
to.
answers to. That's
Okay.
exactly right. You already know the answers to it.
Well,
So I don't know how many of your listeners do your listeners know your story, your foster care
some
story?
people know the story, some people don't. Most of the people that I have on my, I'll say 99% of the people on my Facebook page, they are friends or people who know me or one person away. 90%, they're family members, friends. They're not like just random people that I friended into my page. So
Mm-hmm.
they do have some idea. Even people, today, I posted this morning, my dad was a Marine. And so I
Mm.
always celebrate my dad during this time because, I don't know what he went through when he came back from Vietnam. All I know is
Right.
that when he left the family to go to war, right?
Right.
And then I didn't see him the rest of my life till I was 32 years old. And I
Wow.
was, and that's where the foster care story kind of comes in because my mom happened to pass away early, and we'll get to that. But
Yeah, I was
most of
gonna
the
ask
people
you. Well, actually, that. Mm-hmm.
they don't know the story because we didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
When my aunt decided to take over and become my mother,
Mm-hmm.
she brought the whole family together. She said, "We're not doing this separation.
That's
We're one
awesome.
family."
Yeah.
And I've done that even in marriages. I've actually been married more than once, but I always count whoever is in the family as part of the family. My,
Right.
my uncle
That's
Ron right now, who
amazing.
might be watching from California,
Okay.
I've been divorced from his niece forever, but he still
He's
sees
still
me
Uncle
as his
Ron.
nephew,
Yeah.
right? And I still
Mm-hmm.
say Uncle Ron. So
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let
sometimes
me
that
ask you. Let
happens.
me let before you go on and we really hit the meat of it, right?
Hmm.
Why don't you tell people who might not know who you are and what you've done, what you're currently doing? Let's talk about that because I want to parallel that to or juxtapose that to your life in foster care. Okay, so tell them what are you doing? What have you done since you left foster care? We're
Well,
gonna do it
first,
backwards. Yeah.
first I want to make sure people are clear about foster. I had a foster care parent,
Mhm.
right? And we were in transition for 2 years,
Mhm.
me and my
Mhm.
brother. My mom passed away when I was 8 years old,
Mhm.
and that kind of threw us into a situation where, we had no father, no mother, and the family was trying to decide like who's going to take the kids, right? My sister was already
Mhm.
living with my aunt,
Mhm.
and me and my brother were kind of left. So what they were trying to say is that, well, we can't take all of them, right? And my aunt had already had her family already, so taking in three more children would make it eight children. She already had five, and
Wow.
so for her to make that decision was, not the decision that the family was going to make, and she wasn't making at that time. But what
Right.
happened is during the 2 year transition, my grandfather, who was a pastor, who had a church, who had a school, had a teacher there named Miss Pickens, and Miss Pickens was uh, in front of everybody the greatest thing since sliced bread, but
Right.
behind the scenes she was a tyrant.
Oh,
And
wow.
so my brother and I were put in situations that were dire. My
Mm.
brother was actually made to take baths in hot boiling water.
Oh,
I mean, she
wow.
would turn on the hot water without the cold and then tell us to take a bath. And I remember one time specifically being afraid that we were going to burn because it was so
Mm.
hot, and we had to
Mm.
jump in there and stay in there and wash up in this hot water. And
Mm.
in the as a kid's mind, at that time, I I really didn't know what that was all about, but I knew that
Mhm.
moment and I remember that moment. Another
Mhm.
situation was she had on top of her bed stool, she actually had a pearl handled gun. I don't know what kind of gun. It was a handgun, and it was silver, and it had a pearl handle, and it had the little black lines in it. And
Mm.
one day she said to me, she said, if you don't get it together, you're going to probably have a problem. And she pulled this gun out, and
Mm.
I'm standing there as a kid, like I think I
Mm.
was in
Mm. Mm.
first or second grade. I think it was in
Oh my
second grade.
goodness.
And
Wow.
and I remember she had this long stick. And when we had to do our ABCs or our multiplication tables, I think I was doing multiplication tables. My brother was doing ABCs. She would have us put our hands out like this, and then she would say two plus two, two times two, seven. She said it real fast, and every time you got it wrong, boom, you got slapped, you got smacked. So,
Wow.
but anyway, I was a pretty smart kid as a little kid, and I had passed this one particular test, and she never saw me like studying for it, so she asked me, did I cheat? And I was like,
Mm.
nah, I didn't cheat on the test. She said, tell me the truth. And I was like, I'm
Mm.
telling you the truth. And
Mhm.
so she stood me up against the wall, and
Mm.
she had these shoes. There was these long cork bottom shoes, and they
Mm.
had these little heavy things on them. They had the
Mm.
little taps, whatever. And so she
Mhm.
hit me with the shoe, telling me to tell the truth. And I'm like, I'm
Mm.
telling the truth. By the third time, she bust my head open
Oh my
to the point
goodness.
that blood was everywhere. Facial
Wow.
wounds puts blood all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was a situation that this woman did, right? And
Mm.
so
Mm.
I was rushed to the hospital. And while I was at the hospital, the interesting thing is they say to me, you were playing outside, right?
Oh,
And so, because on the way to the hospital, she says, if you tell them the truth, you probably won't see your brother again. Now, my brother,
wow.
he's like 5, I'm 8, so I know
Mhm.
the difference between that and him. He's just a little kid too, but I don't think
Yeah.
he knew the weight of that the way I felt the weight of that.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I don't want that to happen. So I said, okay, and I told him, yeah, I was playing baseball and I got hit in the head with a bat. So they were like,
Wow.
they knew that was not the truth because of the type of injury, but they let that move go on, right? So that
Mhm.
happened, went home, went on about our business. Well, second situation happened where there was a $5 bill that I had found. And I don't
Mm.
know if you ever found money, but I've actually found $200. I found a
Oh,
hundred
wow.
dollars. I found $5. I found $10. One time I lost
Mhm.
$100. So I know people lose money, but I was
Right.
in third grade, and I remember coming home, and she said, where did you get money to go skating? And I said, I had found $5. She said, you stole it. And I said, no, I
Mm.
didn't steal it. Now I'm coming back from school. We had just got back from school, and I walk in, and she grabbed me by my arm, and she starts
Mm.
twisting my
Oh
arm, and
my
she says,
goodness.
tell me the truth,
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Now, telling the truth and not telling a lie is one of those things that for me, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing
Mhm. Mhm.
because she kept turning until she popped my arm. My arm
Oh
popped.
my goodness.
Now, I tell you this story today
Wow.
with the emotions very different because I
Yeah.
actually had to go to therapy and work
Wow.
through forgiveness.
Wow.
And I had this thing, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to be involved with foster care, right? Because
Mhm.
the stories around foster care and children that come out of foster care situations is
Mhm.
horrific.
Yeah.
And I knew from firsthand experience that I've experienced this, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know what the impact was for my brother in reference to him remembering Miss Pickens, but
Mhm.
we continued some stuff even after that, right? And
Mm.
what we would call, a corporal punishment from
Yeah.
families,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's when my grandfather intervened with my aunt, and my aunt said, "I'll take them," and she took both of us into her home with already 5 kids. And so I grew up on Long Island with a lot of my friends, and
Mm.
we always had to, like, me and my sister, I never said, I never called her my cousin. I called her my cousin right before we moved, but after
Mhm.
that I always said brother and sister, and I never
Yeah.
separate that even today.
Yeah.
And people are like, "That's your sister? How she's your sister and you guys are only this many months apart?" And blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So we always had to carry this lie in high school. I mean, because when you get to high school, everybody knows something ain't right. Right? They counting it up. They
Right.
making decisions. They're
It's
like,
like, wait a
wait
minute,
a
that does
minute,
not
you was in
compute.
such and such class and she was in
That
so
does
and so.
not.
How does this work, right? So I think it got to a point where I was like, look, I don't care what the heck y'all think. Here's the
Yeah.
deal. This is my sister. And even today, people say they question it sometimes. But I was like, look, Irma's my
Mhm.
sister, and this is the deal. Well, it's just recently I started letting people know who my father was. Because I met my
Mm.
father when I was 32 years old for the
Wow.
first time. My sister worked in a way where she was able to find him, and he actually needed me because he needed my
Wow.
mother's death certificate, and I had my
Wow.
mother's death certificate. A second part of this foster care situation was I was really angry because when I went to the hospital for my broken arm, I really wanted to tell them that she did it.
Oh.
And it was interesting because I never put two and five together with my grandfather standing there. He did not tell them that she did it.
Mm.
I never thought of him not telling until I had to go through therapy and forgive her. And then the therapist said, "Well, what about everyone else?" And
Mhm.
I was like, "Who?" And she said, "Your grandfather had to be there because it was the first time and the only time that I ever heard my grandfather curse. And the first and only time that I seen him angry." Because he was in
Wow.
his office and we was at the school when this happened, and he came out because he heard me yell,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's like, "What did you do?" He said, "What the hell did you do?" And then
Wow.
he came over to me and I was like, "She kept turning my arm and my arm was broken."
Oh
And
my
they had to
gosh.
reset it and put it back in and all
Oh
this kind
my
of stuff and take me
gosh.
off to the hospital. So, I had this anger forever. And I actually transferred that anger to females. You know, I would get angry as soon as you question me the way that she questioned me. I'm responding in a negative way. And
Yeah.
so throughout my life I've had really bad relationships when it comes to that friction, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
To the point that I was about around 30 something years old where I was like, you know what, I really got to figure out something for this.
Yeah.
And so I started
What did you do?
volunteering to work
Okay.
with foster
Mhm.
care kids.
Oh, okay.
I started doing different things. And one part of my job, I was an employment specialist, and we wanted to create what's called a youth to work program. Shout out
Mhm.
to Joseph Williams if you see this. We were putting this program together, and the bulk of the kids that were there were aging out of foster care or they were in a
Okay.
group home. And that's
Okay.
when I really came to grips with the fact that sometimes you go through things,
Mhm.
God will allow you to go through something and come out on the other side to help other people.
Yes. I agree
Not
with
that
that.
he said this was cool and it was right. It's
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
you might survive it. And now, as a
Mhm.
survivor, your job was to now go and help somebody.
Right.
And so I put my heart and effort into making a difference. And I'll never forget Darren. I won't say his last name, but we were at
Mhm.
a football game. This guy is 6'3",
Mm.
280 pounds. He's on the field. I brought my sons to watch his game, and he comes off the field at the end of the game. They won, right? And you would think he
Mhm.
would be like, ah, he was
Mhm.
crying like a
Mm.
big giant teddy bear dude, right? He
Oh,
comes
wow.
over and he
Mhm.
gives me a hug and he's like, "Thank you so much." And I'm standing there with my sons and I'm like, "What's up?" And I'm not sure what's happening. He said, "You're
Mhm.
the first person who came to watch me play. And this was semi-pro,
Oh, wow. Wow.
semi-pro coming from
Wow.
this big kid that was
Yeah.
just getting ready to get aged out, kicked out. He didn't have a driver's license. He didn't know if he was gonna have an apartment. He didn't have none of that stuff. But that's what
Wow.
foster care does. And so it just gets you to the edge and then kicks you right out the door, right? And I found that there are people right now that are homeless because they
Mhm.
went into foster care and they were abused. A lot of
Mhm.
young ladies get sexually abused. A lot of
Oh,
men now get
absolutely.
sexually abused.
Absolutely.
Some of them are sexually abused by the people that's supposed to love them the most or supposed to be the
Absolutely.
caretaker, right? And so
Absolutely.
coming into this was something that I knew I had the compassion for. I had the foundation for some of it. I didn't have the atrocity that some people
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
because I've had kids who've experienced murder of
Mm.
their parent,
Mm.
and that's why they were in foster care because the
Yeah.
state took them away. And I
Wow.
remember for us, my grandfather turned 70, and in New York at that time, the laws changed now. But if you turned 70, they would actually on your 71st birthday, they would take the kids from you and put them into the system. And
Oh,
again, when you
wow.
think of systemic racism and you think of systemic
Yeah.
situations like that, that was part of
Mhm.
that system, right?
Mm.
Because it
Mhm.
kept us from having what we would call a normal upbringing
Family.
and
Yeah.
family.
Mhm.
So that's
Wow.
that's what's happening.
So then what was the scariest part? I mean, prior to her initial physical abuse of you,
The
were
threat.
you yeah, yeah, what was the scariest part of just knowing that you were now going to be living with someone who was not related to you, whose job it was to care for you and your brother?
It was everything that we didn't do right. So it was always a fear that if I didn't put the trash the right way, I would get jacked. If I didn't make my bed the right way, I was going to get jacked. If I didn't pass the tests, I'm going to get jacked.
Mhm.
There was a lot of things that I didn't know that I was doing till I got
Mm.
older to look back and reflect on why did I feel this way? How did I engage this way? And so, but it was the fear of what she might do to the point,
Wow.
two fears. One, that she would kill us.
Wow. Was it
And
that serious
two,
that you
for
really
me,
felt
I felt
for
that
your
she
life?
would kill us because when she pulled that
Wow.
gun down and used that to threaten us, I
Mhm.
believe she would have done it
Wow.
as a little kid. And I actually
Wow.
held that in my heart for a long time. I just got rid of that at 50 something, 56 years old. I
Wow.
finally was able to get through the therapy after a year to go in there and actually do the work that it takes to, so I want to say to anybody who is not, thinking about mental illness, mental health, you have to go get help. You have to seek out the real people. I said, I don't want to go to another church service. I don't want another land of other hands. Even those things really
Wow.
work. They do make a difference. But I needed someone to help me get in there and get this stuff out and clarify it and get it out of my heart. And so it worked. And so I believe I'm a different person today. I
I
know
was
I'm
going
a
to that
different
was going to be
person.
my next question is, how do you think foster care has shaped your life?
Okay, so it shaped me at first in a negative way because I was carrying this negativity and etc. But when I started working with young people and actually seeing that some of them had never ate at a restaurant, they didn't
Mm.
even know like what's the difference between a salad fork and another fork. They had
Mhm.
no idea that you had to get your driver's license before you turned 19, right?
Mm.
They didn't understand that, your body didn't have to be given to whoever you wanted just to get you some stuff,
Mhm.
and and so working with these kids and hearing the horrific things that they had to endure to be alive made me have a certain amount of compassion. And so what foster care and understanding foster care and the negative dark side of foster care did, it made me start raising my hand to do training and development for the parents. So when I was working with
Mm.
UC Davis, they had an opportunity for this thing called TANF, transitional assistance for needy families. I
Mhm.
participated in that, and one of the areas that I did, I had what we call at-risk people groups. So I work
Mhm.
with aging out of adults, aging out of the system. I
Mhm.
work with incarcerated youth, and I work with dislocated workers, long-term second and third generation welfare and foster care parents. Those were the five major areas that I was able to impact. And so it shaped me there also, because now I can talk to these parents and say, why do you treat these children as if they're not a part of you? How is it that you can treat this child one way and teach your own child a different way?
Oh yeah.
How can you get money from the state and use it to buy all these extravagant things, but don't give this person what they need so that when they leave your house, they're prepared, like their
Mhm.
life, their driver's license, the
Yeah.
ability to learn how to drive, the
Yeah.
understanding of a bank account, how to
Mhm.
find an apartment, the necessities of adulthood.
Right.
And so
Right.
that was the impact that it had on me.
So if you okay, so you being who you are now, you've accomplished the things that you've accomplished now. What would you say to your younger self to I guess provide yourself with comfort?
All right. It's not like I just started going to any counseling. Every time I had a major breakdown, I didn't know where it was coming from, but I went to counseling back in 19, I want to say 92, 91, after my son was born, Christian. And I was 27, 28 years old, new parent, and all this stuff was happening, and I had to figure out all these negotiations. And I remember going to a counselor at Kaiser Hospital, and he said, "You can go home." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You have so many coping skills. You are so resilient that I don't think I could do anything for you."
Hmm.
So what I would tell my younger self is to continue to fight, to push through the pain, not to give up. I would tell my younger self also to forgive early, because I held that unforgiveness a long time. And I
Mhm.
would also tell my younger self to get help quick. Don't
Mm.
wait. Because the anger that I had for an adult, and the anger that I had for this female, and the anger that I had for that kind of engagement, it was
Mhm.
interesting. When people ask me about my divorce, and then I say, I've been married more than once, and they say, well, what happened? I was actually attracted to this power type female, but when it got to where it was overbearing and negative to me, it didn't work. So in my last marriage, I chose somebody totally opposite, right? Thinking
Mhm.
this is going to work and this is going to be great and I'm going to do everything right. And in the
Mhm.
end, it still ended up with a divorce. Three
Mhm.
marriages, right? And
Mhm.
so I had to get some help, because I was like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
What am I doing? Forget them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so once I started really going through those layers,
Mhm.
I was able to identify some things. My attraction to the power is one thing. The other stuff is something totally different, and I have to be able
Mhm.
to decipher the difference. It's like young ladies who continually say they want to, be with a thug, and they go after the same guys that destroy them, tear them down,
Mhm.
beat them up,
Mhm. Mhm.
negativity all the time, and then they finally get a dose of the other thing, and they go, "That's terrible. That's too bland. I don't need that. I want this
Mhm.
other thing," and they go back to
Mhm.
that negative. I
Mhm.
learned not to go back. and and I learned that it's okay to be me.
Mhm.
And where I am now in my life is like, God has given me grace, and he's given me favor, and he's given
Mhm.
me still, a youthfulness about myself, that I
Mhm.
can go and I could touch those kids. I can say something to them and they want to do better. I can say
Mhm.
something to their parents and their parents get an awareness that wants to change. And so
Mhm.
that's why when you asked me to be on your board,
Mhm.
it was a done deal. As soon as you told me about your vision, your mission,
Mhm.
and what you was about
Mhm.
foster care and what I needed to bring to the table, I knew I
Mhm.
had so much stuff that I could bring to the table
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
going to help benefit and help make things better. I want them to have houses. I want them to
Mhm.
have vehicles. I want them to
Mhm.
have college graduations. I want them to have
Mhm.
lives that they can
Mhm.
say wasn't a default.
Mhm.
because some of the young ladies, I'll never forget a young lady come up to me and she says, she starts crying and she's coming up to me because she
Mhm.
knew I held them to a higher standard in this
Mhm.
youth to work program. And she
Mhm.
came to me whining, really crying and whining. And I was like, what's wrong? What's going on,
Mhm.
baby?
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
said, you're going to be mad at me. And I said, why? She said, because I'm pregnant.
Mm.
And she felt so bad about getting pregnant, not because she didn't want to be pregnant, but she didn't want to disappoint me because
Mm.
I had built them up so much that they can
Mm.
do all things through Christ. They can make whatever impact, the positive impact they want. They don't have to be the story's not over. You know, I
Mhm.
watched Les Brown today. It's not over till you win.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
you can make a
Mhm.
different decision.
That's
A
right.
choice is made now, and then a choice is made now, and then a choice
Mhm.
is made now. So make a new
Mhm.
choice. And
Mhm.
every time you make a new decision, new choice, you move into a different place.
Mhm.
And so the empowerment of understanding that, and I can speak from a very solid place on that.
Yeah.
It's not theory to me.
Yeah. You lived it.
Lived it. And
Yeah.
I've been homeless.
Yeah.
I know what that is.
Mm.
I've been in a situation where I had a job, but I couldn't get an apartment because of my credit. They wouldn't let me in. I know what that is. And I know what
Mhm.
these kids are dealing with. Because some of those
Mhm.
people been using their name and their credit and everything else. And then when it's time for them
Yeah.
to use it, they can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Or
Yeah.
the single parent situation.
Mhm.
Being divorced, you're kind of like a surrogate single parent every couple
Mhm.
of weeks.
Mhm.
And because
Mhm.
you don't get to hear all the cool stuff that happens in the house because you got
Mhm.
them for the weekend.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
started
Right.
working with fathers
Mhm.
outside of the home.
Mhm.
And I worked with Malik Yoba and a couple other people, James Avery, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They had a program called my children still call me daddy. I
Mm.
started volunteering for stuff like that. So all
Mhm.
I've done, Irene, is take all the pains and all the other stuff and figure out how can I use it to help other people. And it's been how I live my life. And then I have a work ethic that I believe I attribute to my grandfather because I watched my grandfather do all of this stuff in the community, make sure everybody was taken care of. And I remember having a conversation with my two uncles after my grandfather passed, and one of my uncles said, "Yeah, he always had everything for everybody else, but not us."
Mm.
And it bothered me at first, but then I understood it as I got older
Mhm.
because he had a mission to help the people. And I believe he felt that they was good
Mhm.
enough, but these people are way off, so we need to help them.
Mhm.
And I may not have had the millions of dollars, but I had enough time to put some effort in to help. So foster
Mhm.
care and being involved with foster care, I believe we could change the world with foster care.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Your
And
organization, you can
I
change with your organization, you can change the
mhm.
world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the goal, is to change the world. And to speak to your point about, it doesn't your life doesn't stop at foster care. Like, foster care doesn't have to be your whole life story. It can be something, that a period of time that you went through, but now you've moved on. I mean, I've got 10 celebrities that I can think of that if I called their names, you would know who they are. John Lennon, Steve Jobs, Ice-T, um, a former mayor of DC, Mayor Anthony Williams. His mother was Virginia Williams. She adopted him. And I bet you few people know that Colin Kaepernick grew up in foster care.
Mhm.
Marilyn Monroe grew up in foster care. Eddie Murphy grew up in foster care. I mean, there are like a ton of people who, Cher grew up in foster care. John Lennon of the Beatles, he grew up in foster care, right? He spent time in foster care. So foster care can have a positive impact on your life, and cause you to make decisions that you wish were made for you when you were going through foster care. Um, so it can have a positive and a negative, but you can use it as a stepping stone. You can use foster care as a stepping stone to decide, okay, when you have children, you are
Yep.
not going to treat your children the way that you were treated in foster care.
Yes.
Okay. And while my mother never put me in the foster care system, what she did do was, from the time I was born to the time I was 11 going on 12, um, I was bounced around from house to house and school to school, and kind of
Mhm.
lived the life that Antoine Fisher, the movie Antoine
Oh
Fisher. I
yeah.
mean, I stayed with a family. There was a pastor, his evangelist wife, and their 5 daughters. And the oldest daughter used to make me do what Antoine Fisher's babysitter made him do,
Him do.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
totally disgusting. And what happened was, as a little kid, you got these emotions. You don't know what to do with these emotions that you have when things are happening to you and people are touching you places and making you do things. Um, so I would go into the bathroom, I would light a match, blow it out, and I would sit because it just made me nervous. Like, just the thought of that, I knew that it wasn't right. I didn't like
Mhm.
that feeling. I didn't I just it, and I would just light a match and blow it out. Light a match,
Mhm.
blow it out. One day, somebody was coming up the steps and they said, "I smell smoke. I smell smoke." And it scared me. So what I did was is I threw the match in the trash can.
Hmm.
Well, there were towels, dried paper towels in the trash can, and it ended up burning the house down, right?
Mhm.
I promise you, I had forgotten about that.
Hmm.
Somebody once told me that there are certain traumas that children, when you
Repression. Mhm.
experience, that it goes so low
Deep.
beneath your subconscious
Yep.
that you don't even remember. And I promise you, I did not remember it until one day I ran into the wife,
Hmm.
and I would run into them periodically. I think I've run into them maybe 2 or 3 times throughout my life since that time. I was about 7, because I was living in their home in 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Because I remember sitting down in the den with my legs crossed like this, watching the television. We were all gathered together watching the news coverage of Dr. King, after he'd been assassinated. And so I um, experienced that. And it was, I would see them throughout my life, and it was like they were never happy to see me. And I remembered that I used to live with them, and I was like, oh yeah, I just, but they would always, like, they would never smile. It was. And so one day there was a community famous preacher, Dr. Sherman S. Howard. Shout out to Dr. Sherman S. Howard. He's deceased now, but the love is still there. Well, when he passed away, several years ago, we had his funeral at his church, New Bethel Church of God in Christ.
Mhm.
She showed up at the funeral, and when I saw that she was there, I did what I always do. It's like, oh my God, there she is. Let me go say hi to her. So I ran outside to catch her. And when I ran outside and I said, hi, I said, I saw that you were inside, and I didn't want you to leave without me saying hi to you. And she stood in front of me and she looked at me, and with piercing fire in her eyes. And she said, I traveled the country telling people about you. And I looked at her in her eyes, and it was a very dark place. And I
Hmm.
knew that at that moment, where she was going to take me, I didn't want to go. It was a dark place and I did not want to go. I said, oh, okay. Well, and I was like, I didn't know what she was talking about. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go back inside. I just want you to know it was good to see you. When I got home, after we had finished the funeral, and we had finished the repast and had gone to the cemetery and all that, and I went home. That night I prayed to God. I said, God, why is it that when I see them, they're never happy to see me? I said, and I saw her today and she wasn't happy to see me. I said, I was happy to see, I was smiling and, really happy to see her. And I said, why is it that they're never happy to see me? His voice said to me, as clear as your voice is to me right now, he said, it's because you burned their house down.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. And then the memories started coming back. It's like, oh my God, I did.
Hmm.
It was a complete accident. I had no idea, but my point is that they never treated me like I was part of the family. To your point, like
Yeah.
what you do to, like, they never made the child feel like they were part of you. I was never made to feel like I was a part of that family. And I'm sure my mom, and she's not sitting too far from me, but I'm sure because we're together now. But anyway, I know that she made the best decision that she made, that she thought was a good decision at that
At
moment
that
and at that
time.
time,
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I never bothered to tell anybody what was going on because I thought, wow, I don't know how long it would take her to find somebody else to keep me. So I'll just keep this a secret. I just won't tell anybody. Um, and then I ended up having to leave because now, things had transpired. But, you know, that was a problem because it was like I know my mom was trying to make the best decision. She put me in a home where there was a mother, a father, and there were five girls. So I thought I knew she was thinking, "Wow, she's going to have sisters." So we would grow up and we would grow up to be sisters and we would be close and all that. And the father treated me the best in the house. He never raised his voice at me. He never looked at me cross-eyed. He never grabbed me. One time I remember that I we were going to church and I didn't have any white socks. And so he made the suggestion of letting me wear a pair of white socks that belonged to the youngest daughter, and they were white socks and they had little lace ruffles around the edges. And she said to me, "And you better not get them dirty."
Hmm.
And so he said, "Well, she's a kid, she better not get them dirty." And so I go to church and I'm just as ladylike all day long. I don't run, I don't play. I come home and there was a spot on one of the socks. And so she tells her husband, spank her because she dirtied up those socks. He was like, "Really? You want me to spank her because it's. She said spank her."
Hmm.
And so he whacked me with one hand on my butt, really to satisfy her. But I didn't fall out, I didn't cry, nothing. But it was to satisfy her. But it was like he couldn't believe it that
Well,
she
see, here's the
made him.
thing that happens with that. And see, one of the things that happened with me was she had to take me. I had two therapies. One was EFT, emotional freedom technique, and a lot of people don't
Mhm,
agree with it. It's a Western. It's not a Western situation. It's an Eastern religion type thing. But
mhm,
what they did was they help you like go in your mind, go in your heart, and find these moments, and then bring those moments forward, and then
mm,
you deal with those moments. And then she says to me, she says, if you were 8 years old, what decision would you make? Why would you have a problem making a different decision at 48? Why would you
mm,
make a different decision at 55? So she
mhm,
had me really like rationalize this situation, but I had to bring
mm.
that stuff to bear because
Yeah.
the childhood trauma that you talked about that we repress, that we put inside,
Mhm.
we bury it deep because of the pain. And remember,
Yeah.
we only have three things, right? We have pain, pleasure, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We do things to either avoid pain or to gain pleasure, period.
Mhm.
Now, that's the
Mhm.
pain pleasure principle. However, what happens sometimes is you get to the point where you think pain is natural. And
Mm.
when you think it's natural, you put up with unnatural things,
Mm.
right? So that's what
That's
happens. And so in foster care, these kids come into a place where they're supposed to get embraced, but they might be the kid that didn't even get a foster care parent until they was 11, 12, 13,
mhm.
as opposed to somebody getting the baby when there's 2 and 1 and just
Mhm.
born.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
so they have the different experience. So I think
absolutely.
what you do and what we're doing with the board members looking at where you're going and how you're going to, execute this vision and this new mission or the old mission, but with a refresh vision is really embody these principles with
Mhm.
helping these individuals figure out their lives and then give them the right tools,
Yeah.
give them the
Yeah,
tools that they can actually execute. And I
absolutely.
think that's where the power of our community comes into play.
Yeah.
Shout out to LeVar.
Mhm.
He used to work at the Boys and Girls Club. He invited me as a
Mhm.
guest speaker. We was working with
Mhm.
some kids, and one of the guys was 14 years old. I'll never forget, 14 years old. His mom's working three jobs, and he has to be the father. He has to get them up from school, get them dressed, get them fed, get them off to the bus stop. Then he has to go to school. Then he has to get out of school early enough to run across town, get back at the bus stop so they get off the bus. He can take them back in the house, get them prepared because by the time they go to bed, their mom comes home,
Mhm.
right? Now that's a kid
Mhm.
who has a parent and everything, right? One parent in the
Mhm.
household.
Mhm.
Think
Mhm.
about that scenario in a foster care environment with a foster care parent who could care less, right?
Right,
So
right.
these things we have to help them so that they can
Yeah,
navigate better. And
yeah.
to your point in reference to repressed
Emotions
situations,
and
emotions,
experiences.
experiences,
Mhm.
there are people who are excellent at helping you get there and heal childhood trauma.
Mhm.
Childhood trauma continues until you die unless you get
Mm.
help.
Mhm.
And that's why we see some people arrested development. They're still acting like they're 12 because they're responding at 12 at 52, because they
Yeah.
never learned how to respond the right way. They've been responding the
Wow.
same way. And then if
Mm.
that gained them access to pleasure, that's how they respond. If that gained them access to pain, or not get pain, that is how they respond. So there's so much, in that I can actually, talk to you about.
Mhm.
There's some people that are saying hello and thank you for the show and grateful for using this platform. And thank you, Robin Brown. She had a lot to say. She said, absolutely love your beautiful daughter's voice. I wanted to know how you can get her the song. I totally relate to what you're saying on the broadcast. I still
Yeah.
have therapy of some of the trauma of this to this day. See, some
Yeah.
people have trauma all their life because getting help, we in the African American community, we tend to pray it away. What's
Yeah.
that song, Solange? I tried to drink it away, right? She
Yeah.
got all
Yeah.
these other ways to get rid of it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
really dealt with it, right? So,
Yeah.
shout out to what you're doing with Foster Care Shines. Can you
Mhm.
tell us, like, where do we find information about Foster Care Shines? How are you planning to do this relaunch? What are some of the things that you are wanting us to do, or having us, the board members, really dig in to help you with the revamp?
So I think it's really critical to get out into the community, to make the community aware. Because as someone said to me, my accountant said to me, she was like, "P. Irene, you have to relaunch Foster Care Shines because what I know about foster care." Children in foster care, those who are growing up in foster care, those who are aging out of foster care. What I know about that, I learned from you as I heard you tell the story of foster care children and some of the things, some of the traumas that they experience, some of the things that they go through. And I think that's important. I think it's also very important to highlight some of the wonderful relationships that have been cultivated in foster care and as a result of foster care that that really is imperative in providing some developmental um, benefits for young people who age out of foster care and those who are growing up in foster care. And so, as I said, we are relaunching foster care. We are getting a new website, and we're really going to begin to get out in the community and even engage in new collaborations with other organizations who are doing some things in the community, but we really want to get out there and really show some of the great things that
Yeah, the
are going
positive
the
aspects of
positive
their
aspect
lives,
of foster care that
what they've
all
been
foster
doing.
care parents are not cutting their children's limbs off and putting
Yeah,
them in the
putting them in
freezer
cages and all this
and putting
stuff.
them in cages and not feeding them for days, and
Yeah,
those things make the news. But
right.
and so there are over 400,000 young people in foster care right now in America, right, the greatest
Mm,
country in the world, and there are not enough foster care homes. And I
right.
think it's because people are fearful of the child that they're going to get. Well,
Yeah,
guess what? I like to tell people Jesus Christ was a foster care. Joseph was not his father.
exactly.
Okay. Joseph was not his
Matter of
father.
fact, if you want to get real with it, no, I'm just kidding. There was a whole
Joseph,
lot with that story right there, because Joseph
yeah.
was like, what, 50 something? She was like 14.
Joseph was not
Your
his father.
eyebrow going up around that
Exactly.
right now.
Right.
So
And
go
so
ahead.
we should, and especially those of us who are in the body of Christ, even those of us who consider ourselves and who call ourselves believers, right? We say that we are the Abraham's seed, and we are the siblings of Jesus Christ. Well, how is that? It's through adoption, right? It's through adoption. And so as believers, we, especially if nobody else in the world um brings young people into our homes and makes room for young people in our lives, it's Believers should be, and a lot of times I think that we would be blessed more financially if we were seeking God for financial prosperity for others so that we could be a blessing to others. A lot
Hmm.
of times is we want a new car because we want to, drive in style, right? We
Right.
want a new house, a bigger house because that's just how we want to live, right? But I think if we begin to pray and to really, open our hearts, because believe it or not, even though African Americans are only roughly 13% of the American population, we represent almost half of um, the young people that are in foster care. The approximately over 40% of the young people that are in foster care are children of color,
Mm.
primarily African Americans, right?
Wow.
And that really is an indictment against our community, I'm sorry to say, but it really is an indictment against our community because we have the proliferation of drugs and just bad decisions, right? So you don't have to be on drugs to make bad decisions. We just make bad decisions, and we just don't have that unity and that camaraderie in our community the way that we used to. Right, the way that
Mm.
we used to, where you had people like your father who just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. He wanted to make sure he might not have been the greatest, in providing whatever, for whoever in his house or whatever, but he wanted to make sure that the people in the community, because he felt like, hey, they need more than what we do. We're going to be okay. But the people in the community, they may not have anybody. This child over here may not have anybody. I used to
Yeah.
live in Baltimore, on the east side of Baltimore, down the street on Chilton Street, down the street from the Alameda. And when I grew up, practically every other house had somebody living in it that wasn't born in that house. Right? I
Mhm.
used to live in that house. I was
Well, remember,
again up.
we systemic again, that's also a part of our history because many people were ripped from their parents, right,
That's
and sent
true.
to
That
other
is
places.
true.
And
That
during
is
the
very
Great
true.
Migration, we actually
Hmm.
had parents leave their kids because they were going
Hmm.
to try to make a better
A
world,
better life.
and
I
then
got
they
that.
went to start making a better life, and then the
And they
rug
never
was
came
taken
back.
from underneath
Yeah.
of them, right, because
Hmm. Hmm.
the economy shifted. They thought they would have it, and then they didn't have it because the jobs got taken away. I was
Right.
actually talking to someone in the Baltimore area that lives up in near the Baltimore City area, and they were
Hmm.
telling me about how all this one particular section was all, black businesses and people going to work and all that kind of stuff. And then the government changed it. They took some of the subsidy away, and this and that happened, and this and that happened. Next thing you know, and you also had what they called at that time white flight out of the certain particular area, and it
Hmm.
took the money out of the community, right? And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
now it was this situation where people was like, not feeling that they can actually survive. So we have to help them get past those things too, because
Yeah. Yeah.
those are the things that actually engulf them. You know what I mean? Because they can get caught up in the whys and how come this happened to me and all that kind of stuff. But what we want to do is empower them to take whatever
Absolutely.
they have in their hand, whatever talent,
Yes.
ability, gift that they have,
Absolutely.
get empowered to move forward with that. Make
Absolutely.
sure that they understand how to take their time to go volunteer and learn a
Hmm.
new skills. But if they
Hmm.
can't get a job, okay, let's help them get jobs. Let's help them
Hmm.
start businesses. Let's help them have an
Absolutely.
entrepreneurial mindset,
Hmm.
have a
Hmm.
community-based mindset. That's one of the other reasons why we do
Absolutely.
things like, you did the Dream Extreme, right? And what
Hmm.
did you do?
Hmm.
You said, okay, we're going to have a dream board
Hmm.
experience with them.
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
held a dream board experience. And we had those foster care kids, really, those kids, period, really embrace this fact that
Engaged.
they
They,
actually
yeah.
have something to offer. And I
Yeah.
think this community, when you say community, it says that, we always hear this African proverb, it takes a village,
It takes
right?
a village.
Right,
Hmm.
it does take a village, but what do you do when the guy in the village, right, the king of the village is in jail, he's incarcerated for something stupid,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
The queen of the village, she's also now incarcerated because of a push out,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
now the
Yeah.
kids are left to be able to do whatever they can in the village by themselves. And then if
Right.
the village is sick, because the other guy in the village is trying to run after the kid, what do we
Hmm.
do, right? So we
Hmm.
have to
Hmm.
heal all the way around. And I heard people getting excited about the election and Joe Biden and this and that and this and that.
Hmm.
And the bottom line is we're going to have to go into these communities ourselves. We
Yeah,
have to be the ones that no one's
absolutely.
coming to save us.
Nope.
Jesus is not
The
coming to
Calvary
get
and the
the
Calvary
cavalry's
is
not
not
riding
coming.
in. If you
That's
really want
right.
to pay attention to the cavalry, pay attention to what happened in Georgia with the punch bowl, right? The cavalry
Hmm.
came, collected all these free slaves, these free people, told them they had to be slaves again, and if they didn't want to, they had to go to this one place, and they wind up massacring them. So that was
Yeah.
after freedom was given to them, right? So
Hmm.
this nation has constantly put these barriers in place. So we have to be the ones that decide to forget that, and we're going to go ahead and heal our own people. We're going to go into these
Absolutely.
communities and do like you just said, empower
Hmm.
them with what they have, empower them,
Yes.
and get people to donate to your organization, get
Yes.
people to see the vision, and in your
Yes.
case, making the vision plain so people can connect to it, right?
Right. And then even assisting, helping foster care parents, helping foster care teens, helping foster care kids, helping foster care siblings, foster care young people who are in foster care who want to own their own business. You're absolutely right. I mean, all of those things are part and parcel of what we're going to be doing going forward. We have to. We don't have a choice because if we don't, like you said, that, like the cavalry is not coming in. The cavalry is not coming to rescue us. We're not going to. There's no knight in shining armor who's riding on a white horse to come and get us. We have to be diligent. We have to be vigilant, and we have to really, as a community, just band together and be willing to support young people who are in foster care because a lot of times they don't have the support that they need. But if we
Right.
work together, this is something that we can absolutely do. We can make an impact, and that's what it's about. It's about making impact because just like you remember your experiences in foster care, and I remember my experiences in foster care. Um, young people, people who are abused. Guess what? They grow up to be an adults, and either they'll be adults who heal, or
Or
they'll
they'll
also
that hurt.
be adults that hurt.
Yep.
Exactly.
So listen, we got 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
People are asking like about the website. I'm thinking that you said the website is being revamped. Is there an
Yeah, we're
email address that
refreshing.
they could send you a message saying, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm interested in supporting the organization when you get it together or whatever you decide." Because I know we're going to have a launch, we're going to have a relaunch, we're going to have a celebration. We're going to talk about it,
Absolutely.
bring some of the people that's already experienced your organization in the past to come
Uh-huh.
back and talk. How do people
So
connect?
people can reach out to me a couple of ways. There's one, P Irene, that's Pirene at fostercareshines.org. That's one. Or you can even they can shoot me an email on my personal email, which is pirenegreen at gmail.com. Either one of those works. They can also call me on 202-695-3895. They can feel free to give me a call. We're always looking for people who want to support us and help us as we help young people. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for those who want to donate so that we can, because actually we're looking to put something together pretty soon, and even do a virtual event. So, things are exciting, things are moving, things are happening, and we want as many people who have the heart to want to be a blessing to kids who are in foster care. Now is the time. Foster Care Shines is the place.
Now you said P Irene at
Yes.
Foster Care Shines is one, right?
Uh-huh.
Dot
Yes. Dot
org.
org. Yes. Dot org.
Okay,
P
and then you
P.
said P
Mhm.
Irene Green at
Yes.
gmail.com.
Right. And green is GREEN with no, like the color, no E on the end.
Right. Okay, P Irene Green at gmail.com. So those are the
Yes.
two places that you guys can reach P
Yes. Yes.
Irene P Irene Green. I almost said it. Almost said it. We already had that meeting. We
Done.
had that
That's right. We
meeting.
already had that
We already had that
conversation.
meeting, that conversation. So
Yes.
P Irene Green at
Yes.
gmail.com, P
Yes. And we
Irene at fostercareshines.org. And
yes.
tell
And
us
then we
that phone
also
number
have,
again. You said
oh,
202
it's 202-695-3895.
695
3895.
3895.
And they
All
can
right.
also, or actually that's not, actually, uh 240-413-9300. I apologize. I gave the wrong number.
240
240-413
413
9300.
9300. Okay, we can put
Yes.
that one up. All
Yes,
right, so I'm gonna
please.
post that you
Yeah.
guys so you can see it.
And
That's 240-413-9300.
yes, and
That
then we
allows
also
you
have our website that is being relaunched. We do have, it's in the making, so like I tell people, don't judge yet. Wait, it's under construction, but we do have a few things that are on there, and we are working to change some other things. But we just wanted to secure the URL to make sure that it was good,
the
and so they
Earl.
can go to, yeah,
You
the
so tech
URL.
savvy, it just
Yes,
amazes me. You gonna get the Earl,
yes, the
the
URL. Yes,
URL, girl.
the URL. Yes, the
So that's
URL.
still fostercareshines.org.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
fostercareshines.org. Yeah,
One
and so we're
last
all,
question before you
yes.
run out of here, and
Hmm.
we're out of time. We got like 1 minute left.
Okay.
Why did you say foster care shines?
Because I wanted to bring national focus, compassion, and support to young people who are aging out of foster care and shine a bright light on the positive things that are happening in foster care. Because you very rarely hear it. You very rarely hear, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to hear, one of your audience, to wanted you to share with your audience, kind of, like the awesome things that you're doing. I mean, you got a TV show now, and I mean, you're doing some big things. You've helped a lot of people, and so you could be bitter. You could be. There are a lot of people who've gone through trauma similar to your story, similar to my story, and they're bitter, they're alcoholics, they're strung out on drugs or whatever. But you've taken what you've experienced and you are making impact in the lives of others. And I mean, that's success. That
Yeah,
truly is success.
that's one thing I can say that, when I went to 26 Bentley Road, I didn't feel like foster anything. I didn't feel like I was lost out there. I always looked for my dad and my mom, but even though knowing my mom had passed away, I
Hmm.
always look for my dad in the eyes of all kind of men around. I was like, is that my dad? Is that my dad? Is that my dad? For all
Mm,
those years,
hmm.
32 years, because I remember
Wow.
when I had my first touchdown and I ran, like 60, 80 yards, and
Hmm.
it was a Super Bowl, and I was working with John J. Burns Park. Shout out to Massapequa Park,
Hmm.
Massapequa. I was on the traveling team, and I was pretty good at football
Hmm.
at a point in time until I got to high school, where it became political a little bit.
Hmm.
But I was number
Hmm.
one when I was running
Hmm.
with, the other people. And I just remember that one day looking in the stand going, dang, man, I don't have a dad that could like celebrate me or anything,
Yeah.
so
Or be proud of dad, to
proud
be
of me and none
proud.
of that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that became something that no matter what relationship I'm in,
Hmm.
my kids were number one. My
Yeah.
kids, being with my kids, being with my grandkids, and people who know me intimately and have been next to me and they know that that's what drives my success. And so,
Hmm.
the pain and everything like that, I push past all that to have something so that I could show them, hey, even if you go through a negative situation, you don't have to become it. You don't have to
Yeah.
let it become you,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I teach Joseph, Jonathan, and Brittany. That's what I teach Christian. I look forward to seeing them in their lives and how their lives have progressed, and none of them are in situations that I could have been in had I let that negativity become, the reality for me. And
And that's
so
what
I'm
I'm sorry, I
thankful.
didn't mean to cut you off, but I
Mhm.
wanted to, when I tell my story, people, there's a lot of sympathy for me, but I just want people to know that I, God has blessed me, and like you, to move past and beyond the years that I spent in living the life as a foster care child. I graduated, high school. I graduated college with a bachelor's degree. I graduated college with a master's degree. I'm a licensed minister. I'm an author. I started a nonprofit organization. Today, I'm a housing counselor. I love providing housing credit and budget counseling to predominantly our community that does not have a handle on managing and budgeting, money, because I guess, we haven't had it forever. And so I teach, people how to budget their money, how to manage their credit. And so, God has been very good to me. I'm married. And so again, God has been very, very good to me. He's been very faithful to me. And so I am appreciative of how God he brought me out of that mind space of limitations where, okay, this happened to me, I guess I'm worthless. He allowed me to go to churches where the preacher said God loves you and he has a plan for your life, and I believed it. I
There you
believed it.
go. That's it.
Hmm.
God said it. I believe it. So be it, because that settles it. All right, y'all. Hey, we're at the end of our time. We went about a minute and a half over, 2 minutes actually. I want to say thank you for everybody that was giving comments along the way. Thank you so much for riding with us. This was not a planned situation. I had an opportunity. I decided to seize the moment because she had availability, brought her on. And, reach out. The information is right there, Irene at fostercareshines.org. And as things progress, she'll let you know. And again, I want to say thank you to P. It's always been a blessing working with you, being on the board. Thank you for interviewing me now.
Awesome. Yes. What a
At
so
that time,
powerful.
I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to what we're going to do. Shout out to
Hmm.
Yolanda,
Yes.
Lewis
Yes.
Ragland,
Definitely.
also
Yes.
on the board.
Doctor.
Dr.
Yes.
Yolanda, yes, Lewis Ragland,
Mm-hmm.
who is on the board. And who knows, you might see Dr. Ross one day, because there's
Hello.
been some opportunity that came my way from an organization and a actual, I'll just say, a educational
Awesome.
organization has been paying attention to some stuff, and they actually
Awesome.
have said that there's an opportunity for me to matriculate,
All right
and
now.
they might be
Matriculate.
conferring some type of degree as a
Oh, that's
result of the work
awesome.
that I've been doing over the
Yeah.
last 25 years. So
Awesome.
I have a pretty large body of work, and the book is
Yes.
also part of it. The book, if you want to get that on Amazon, is No More Crumbs
Hmm.
from the Table, where I help you
Yeah.
celebrate your tag, your talent, your ability, and your gift. All right, we're out of here. Thank you, everybody, for riding with us. Again,
Yes.
we hope to see you on the next page, the next post, the next YouTube video, the next live. I have a great guest Saturday coming up. They're going to talk to you about getting your credit right, getting your money
Hmm.
straight, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So be aware for
Hmm.
that. And then I have some other stuff coming that's going to be pretty hot as well. All right. Talk to you
All
soon.
right.
Take care.
Talk to you
Be
soon.
blessed. And P, we'll talk to you later. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, walk with you, and we'll see you again soon. See Saturday, right? 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's where you'll find me. That's where you'll find us.